My name is Madison Ellington, or at least it used to be. Now it's inmate number 487219. They don't let you keep your full name in here. It's too personal, too much like freedom. I'm recording this on a contraband phone one of the girls smuggled in last month. She charges $50 a session in commissary money, worth every ramen packet. Because if I don't get this out, I'm going to lose what's left of my mind in this 8x10 box. They say confession is good for the soul. I don't know if I have one anymore. But I do know I have a story. And you, yes, you watching this when it inevitably leaks, are going to want every disgusting detail. So here it is, the real version. Not the polished victim statement my public defender forced me to read in court, not the tearful interview snippet that ran on Channel 5, where I blamed emotional manipulation and childhood pressure. The truth, ugly, unfiltered, from the woman who stood at that altar in $8,000 lace thinking she had already won. Let me take you back. Part 1, the rise, before it all burned. I grew up knowing exactly what winning looked like. My father, Judge Robert Ellington, sat on the federal bench. My mother chaired 3 different charity boards and never appeared in public without pearls and a smile that could cut glass. Our house in Buckhead had columns taller than most people's egos. I was their trophy. Valedictorian, debate captain, interned at the DA's office at 19, accepted to Emory Law on early decision. I learned early that love is transactional. You perform, you win, people stay. Franklin Whitfield was the first real risk I ever took. He wasn't part of the plan. The plan was Elijah, sweet, stable, predictable Elijah, son of a mid-level sales executive and a quiet CPA mom. Good family, boring family, safe family, the kind you marry to keep the Ellington name sparkling. But Franklin? God, Franklin was alive in a way no one ever was. 25 years older, married, handsome in that silver fox I've seen the world way. He laughed like he meant it. He listened like every word I said mattered. When he looked at me, I felt seen, not as Judge Ellington's daughter, not as the future junior partner, but as Madison, raw, hungry, real. We started small. A drink after a mentoring session about real estate investments, a hand that lingered too long on my lower back, a late-night text, "You're dangerous, you know that?" I knew. I liked it. The first time we slept together was in the St. Regis penthouse suite. He paid cash, always cash. I thought it was romantic. Turns out it was just smart. After that, it became routine. Tuesdays and Thursdays afternoons, lunch at places Elijah had never heard of, gifts I couldn't explain, a Cartier love bracelet, Louboutins in my size, silk lingerie I only wore for Franklin. I told myself it wasn't cheating if it felt this good. I told myself Elijah would never find out. I told myself I deserved this. And I started needing more. Part 2, the money. Where it really went wrong. Law firms pay juniors like garbage. $215,000 base sounds like a lot until you live in Atlanta, carry student loans, maintain the Ellington image, and fund a double life. Franklin gave me cash sometimes. Investment returns, he called it. But it wasn't enough. So I got creative. It started small. Padding an expense report by $400, a fake Uber receipt here, a client dinner there. No one noticed. Then I got bolder. Fake consulting invoices, shell company under my mother's maiden name. Sorry, Grandma. Wire transfers routed through 3 different accounts before landing in my private savings. By the time Elijah proposed, I had siphoned $237,000 from the firm. Half went to my lifestyle, half went to Franklin. I bought him watches, suits, cologne that cost more than most people's rent. He bought me jewelry, hotel stays, and once, a weekend in Napa I told Elijah was a work retreat. We were funding each other's lies with stolen money. It felt like poetry. I never thought about getting caught. People like me don't get caught. We get promoted. Part 4. The wedding morning. The last hour of my old life. I woke up at 6 a.m. in the guest room of Elijah's parents' house. Hair and rollers, makeup artist arriving at 8. I felt electric. I slipped downstairs in my robe. Franklin was already in the kitchen, making coffee like nothing was wrong. He looked at me over the rim of his mug. That slow, private smile. I walked past him, brushed my fingers across his wrist. I whispered, "Tonight, after the toasts, after everyone's drunk, meet me in the pool house." He nodded once. We were so close. I went back upstairs, showered, let the makeup artist work her magic. I looked in the mirror and saw perfection. 5'9", size 4, glowing skin, white lace gown with a 7-foot train. I was about to become Mrs. Elijah Whitfield and still keep Franklin on the side for years. I believed it. Part 5. The moment everything ended. The ceremony started perfectly. String quartet, rose petals, 300 guests pretending they weren't staring at my ring. Elijah looked nervous but happy. Sweet boy. He really loved me. Then Simone stood up. I remember thinking, oh, she's finally going to cry from joy. Mothers do that. Instead, she spoke. Calm, clear, deadly. I have a reason. The screen behind the altar flickered on. First photo, Franklin and me kissing in their living room yesterday. Second, us walking into the St. Regis. Third, bank statements, cash withdrawals, forged signatures on pension loans, my embezzlement invoices side by side with transfers to Cartier. I felt the world tilt. Then the DNA results. Zoe Jenkins, 15 years old, 99.999% match to Franklin. The garden went silent, then exploded. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. Elijah looked like a stranger. Simone kept going, voice like steel. Franklin bolted, ran like a coward through the crowd. I collapsed in my dress. Then the police walked down the aisle. Handcuffs, cold metal, click. They read the charges in front of everyone. Embezzlement, wire fraud, theft by taking. My mother screamed. My father, the judge, stood frozen, face gray. They led me away in my wedding gown. Cameras flashed the whole time. I remember thinking, this is the last time anyone will ever photograph me in white. Part 5. County Jail, first 72 hours. They strip you. Literally. Orange jumpsuit, no bra, no dignity. I spent 3 days in holding before they moved me to the Women's Detention Center. My lawyer came one day 4. Public defender, overworked, tired eyes. Plea deal on the table, he said. 2 years low security, full restitution, no trial. I laughed, a broken, ugly sound. 2 years for what I did? He shrugged. You're young, white, attractive, first offense. Judge will go easy. Easy. I signed. Part 6. Low security, year 1. They call it camp. No bars on windows, dorm-style rooms. But make no mistake, it's prison. I shared a cube with 3 other women. One was in for check fraud. One killed her abusive husband. One was a former elementary teacher who cooked meth on the side. They all knew who I was. The wedding girl, they called me. First month, I cried every night. Second month, I stopped crying. Third month, I started watching. I learned fast. Don't snitch, don't owe anyone, don't show weakness. I traded my commissary for protection. Gave up my fancy shampoo, my fancy lotion, my fancy everything. By month 6, I had a routine. Wake at 5:30, breakfast, work detail in the laundry, lunch, rec yard, dinner. Lights out at 10. I read books, a lot of books. Self-help, true crime, anything to remind myself I wasn't the worst person who ever lived. I wasn't, but I was close. Part 7. The letters I never sent. I wrote to Elijah. Dozens of letters. Some apologetic, some angry, some begging. I never mailed them. Here's one I still remember. Elijah, I'm sorry I used you. I'm sorry I never loved you the way you deserved, but I did care. In my broken, selfish way, I cared. You were safe. You were kind. You were the version of my life I thought I was supposed to want. I ruined it. I know that. I live with it every day. If you ever read this, know that I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it. Madison. I tore it up. Wrote another to Franklin. Franklin, you coward. You ran. Left me to take the fall while you disappeared. I hope Zoe hates you. I hope Simone never lets you forget. I hope every mirror you look in shows you what a small, pathetic man you became. You promised me forever. You gave me handcuffs. Rot. Madison. I burned that one with a contraband lighter. Part 8. The day the video leaked. Month 14. Someone in here recorded me talking. Late night, lights off. I was telling my cube mate everything. The affair, the money, the wedding crash. It got out. Went viral on TikTok first, then Twitter, then local news picked it up again. Bride who was arrested at altar, now confessing from prison. They blurred my face, but everyone knew. The comments were brutal. Homewrecker, thief, deserved every second. Some were worse. I stopped checking, but one comment stuck. From an anonymous account. You destroyed 2 families, but you didn't destroy us. We're stronger now. Elijah. I stared at those words for hours. He didn't curse me. He didn't wish me harm. He just said, we're stronger. That hurt more than any insult. Part 9. Year 2, the final stretch. I got a job in the library. Best gig in the place. I read voraciously. Started journaling. Real journaling. Not the fake, I'm so sorry stuff for parole. I wrote about my father's expectations, my mother's silence, the hollow place inside me that nothing ever filled. I wrote about Franklin, how he made me feel powerful, how power was the only love language I understood. I wrote about Elijah, how I envied his quiet decency. I wrote about Simone, how I hated her for being right. And slowly, very slowly, I started hating myself less. Not forgiving myself, that's too big a word, but accepting. I was a monster once. Maybe I still am. But monsters can change. They don't have to stay monsters. Release day. October 17th, 2025. 2 years minus good time. My mother came to pick me up. She looked 10 years older. We didn't hug. She drove me to a small apartment she rented in Decatur. 1 bedroom, no view. Your father didn't want you back home, she said quietly. I nodded. I understood. First night out, I sat on the floor with a bottle of cheap wine and watched the wedding video. All of it. The moment Simone stood, the photos, the DNA slide, me collapsing, the handcuffs. I watched it 3 times. Then I turned it off. And for the first time since I was 12 years old, I cried like a child. Not for what I lost, for what I broke. The last letter, this one I mailed. Elijah, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect anything from you ever again. But if you do, I'm sorry. Not the courtroom sorry, not the I was young and stupid sorry. I'm sorry I looked at your kindness and saw weakness. I'm sorry I looked at your family and saw something to use. I'm sorry I stood at that altar and lied in front of God and everyone else while planning to keep lying forever. You deserved better. You still do. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to be part of your life. I'm just saying, I see it now. What real love looks like. What real family looks like. You, your mom, even Zoe, you built something honest from the ashes. I never knew how to do that. I'm learning. Slowly. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here. If you never do, I understand. Either way, thank you for showing me what I destroyed, and thank you for surviving it. Madison. I dropped it in the mailbox at 2:17 a.m. No return address. I didn't expect an answer. I still don't, but I sleep better knowing it's out there, somewhere. Epilogue. Today. I work at a nonprofit now. Entry level. Data entry. $19 an hour. I live alone. I don't date. I don't trust myself yet. I go to therapy once a week. Court mandated at first, now voluntary. My therapist says healing isn't linear. I say it's not even a line, it's a circle. You keep coming back to the same pain until you finally learn the lesson. I'm still learning. But every day I wake up outside a cell. Every day I don't have to lie. Every day I remember the click of those handcuffs. And every day I choose not to be that woman again. If you're watching this leak, if you made it this far, don't feel sorry for me. I earned this. But if my story stops one person from doing what I did, if it makes one girl think twice before she trades her soul for a thrill, then maybe some good came from the wreckage. Maybe. That's all I've got left. Madison Ellington. Former bride. Former thief. Former liar. Current work in progress.